Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Great time of communion together. Folks, I want to introduce you to Sierra Harris. Sierra. Many of you know Sierra. She's been in this church for many years. Many of you remember when she was just a wee little lass, right? But now she just graduated from Olivet University. Yeah, we're very, very proud of her. And what is pretty amazing is at baccalaureate, which is kind of the worship service for a graduation weekend at a school. Olivet has a baccalaureate, and there was only 2 students out of the entire group of seniors that were graduating that were invited to come and share their story, if you will, kind of their testimony of how God has worked in their lives and that sort of thing. Sierra, our own Sierra, was one of those 2. And so she has a really precious story to tell, and just to listen to her closely as God did some great things in her life, and it truly is a testimony to the greatness of our God. We applaud Sierra, but I know Sierra, more than anything else, wants to give glory to the Lord for who her story is given to. So Sierra, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. As Pastor Daniel mentioned, my name is Sierra, and I usually spend most of my time upstairs in children's ministry, so this is very much outside of my comfort zone. But one thing I wanted to share is that I've always liked the symbolism and imagery of cogs and gears in a machine. It might be a weird art major thing, but I love seeing how the small things that work together in the background can contribute to something bigger. I always thought of myself as a cog, someone who would never be seen, and I was okay with that. Somehow, this cog is on a stage, giving a testimony to a lot of people. God has an amazing way of taking people outside of their comfort zone. I want to talk about how God took a quiet person who wanted to serve in the background and pushed her to places she had never thought was possible. I would like to begin by sharing this Bible verse from Jeremiah 29, verses 11 through 13. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I certainly did not know the plans God had for me. Sometimes it was hard for me to know if they were plans to help me grow or to hurt me. I am a very anxious person, so it is easy for me to assume the worst. Being at Olivet taught me that while there may be people who will try to bring you down, those who honor God are the ones who lift you up. I had to learn to trust not only God, but others. My peers and professors there have pushed me to try new things, and this is amazing because I did not know how seen I was. I quietly worked in the background. I studied, I stayed up late, I volunteered at the YWCA and in my home church, Woodlands, and I prayed. I asked God to bless me with the knowledge and skills to help others. I wanted people to not have to go through the things I have. Although the work was hard, it was comfortable. I was so used to working hard that it became the norm for me. One thing that I have learned is that being comfortable is not always what God wants for us. So in my senior year, things got uncomfortable. That brings me to Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. The first thing that was out of my comfort zone was making a children's book for my senior show. Some of you here have seen it, but I wrote a children's book. It is called Lucy's Anxiety, and it is something personal and scary for me to share. I was encouraged by my professors, peers, and family to publish it, and I took a leap of faith. There was a lot of leaping this year. By putting faith in God and trusting my community, it opened so many new avenues for me. Creating that book led me to speaking at the Maggie Sloan Crawford Luncheon for Mrs. Karen Pence. That was because we both share a passion for watercolor painting, children's books, and art therapy. Speaking in front of that crowd was out of my comfort zone. That first leap of faith led to another, and when I questioned myself, I got nothing but love and encouragement. That leads to another leap. I will admit that I did not want to do the Creator Conference pitch competition. My professors were adamant that I just try it and pitch creating children's books about mental health. It was a gentle but very firm nudge. I thought that I did not have enough time, that I was just an art student, and that I had little to offer. I was comfortable with what I had. I was just a cog in the machine. I did not think I needed more, but I thought, maybe this is not just for me. Maybe God is using me towards that goal of serving others, so I stepped out of my comfort zone once again. I know that you do not always get what you want by just working hard. However, I also know that you reap what you sow. I went to the competition asking for $500 for an LLC and marketing means. I left out with someone volunteering to pay for my LLC, business connections, and a check for $4,000 because I won first place. What a gift from God. Overall, my time at Olivet was spent preparing, slowly building confidence, community, and faith. How do I begin to express my gratitude? I am blessed to be here. I learned that I am not just a cog, I can also be a machine. I did not know that God was listening so intently. Going to Olivet has given me so much hope for my future. To be able to go out of my comfort zone for God without losing who I am in the process is something that I am forever grateful for. I will always hold that university close to my heart. Thank you.
Sierra, I think they like you. We're going to get set up for our next testimony here this morning. Want to invite Eric and Jessica Delgado to make their way here. Kirk, let me hand you this microphone, if I may. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm just so proud of Sierra. You know, I mean, man, she's one of ours, right? I mean, good people come out of Woodlands. I'm just telling you, good people come out of Woodlands. And big props to you, Ebony, to you, Marcus. You know, you guys, great job raising your kids, you know, and yeah, I'm just so thankful. You know, we have so many quality people here at Woodlands, so many people that I'm just so very, very thankful for. And I hope that everybody takes advantage of just letting your friends know, letting your family know. You know what, folks? You're struggling in your life. You're having a tough time these days. You know, you're battling some depression or some anxiety. You know, maybe you're dealing with some financial issues, and you just need some support. You know, come to Woodlands. At Woodlands, we just love everybody, accept everybody, just the way you are. You know, but here's the thing. God always loves us too much to leave us there, right? He always wants us to grow. He always wants us to become more like Him. Because as we do, we experience more joy. We experience more peace. We experience more of His favor. And so that's what God has for us. So really, really, really thankful. I've been looking for an opportunity to have Sierra come and share that, so I'm really glad she had that opportunity. Very polished, right? I mean, how about that? She's done this for years. You know, she's done this several times. Very, very, organized in what she wanted to say. This next interview, not so much. We're we're flying. We're taking this a little more spontaneous, so to say. Now, I'm not saying we're not prepared. Eric and Jessica and I, we spent quite a bit of time talking about this, and even spent quite a bit of time yesterday on the phone, kind of talking through this. But as many of you know, in case you don't know, Eric and Jessica Delgado, they're our new worship leaders here at Woodlands. Yeah, very, very thankful for them. Very talented couple, they're young, they're on a learning path, but man, they just got a heart for God, and I know they're going to be growing like crazy. They already are, in the one month they've been doing this now. So they do have a lot of experience in their young lives. I think you're both like in your early 30s, something like that. You got 4 kids. They have 4 kids, so that'll grow you up in a hurry, won't it, parents? That'll do it. Just beautiful children, just love them to death. I'm just so thankful that they're willing to come here today and share a little bit of their story. We're going to do this kind of interview style, all right? So we're going to start with you, Eric, if we may. The essence of any testimony is basically broken down in 3 parts. And this is really important for you because every one of us should be ready to share our testimony. Our testimony is our story of how God has worked in our life. That's what I mean by testimony. You're testifying, if you will. And so it basically begins with your life before you knew Christ, how you came to know Christ, and then your life since becoming a Christian. And just 3 basic parts, and everyone should have that down, should take the time to write that down. Everyone, I say, every Christian should, because we need to be ready to share our story when people ask us, so you go to church, you're a Christian, why? And we ought to be able to tell them why, literally in 1 minute if we need to. So we teach that at Growth Track, which is coming up next week. So again, if you haven't been to Growth Track, we invite you to come to that. It is our pathway to membership. Although if you come to Growth Track, you don't have to be a member, just so you know. We don't force that on anybody. But if you want to be, that's how you go through that process. So Eric, tell us a little about your story. I know, we would start with your life before Christ, but in your family, that's kind of hard to do almost, huh?
Yeah, so I grew up in church. Just to bring it back, my parents were born and raised in Mexico. They moved here with little support from family, but they managed to come here and they started working. They met here in Chicago and started their family. And they started to go to church right away, pretty much. And so I grew, when I came into the picture, I was already in church, from being born to the rest of my life, pretty much. But them coming here, they struggled financially, so we moved a lot from place to place. And at one point, we lived in the church apartment where we helped to maintain the church, clean up and did whatever we could with ministry. My whole family, I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister, and we all helped however we could. And my 2 older brothers, they were on the worship team, and I wasn't for a long while. I was just observing and just, being in church. But yeah, early on, I knew the Lord, and I knew the scriptures. I attended all the vacation Bible schools, and never missed a Sunday. It was always church, Sunday, and like 3 times a week during the week. And there's always something going on. So I grew up.
As it should be.
Yes. So right away I knew the Lord, but a lot of it did not mean a lot. I mean, it was just what I knew. It was just knowledge,
Right.
So one year when I went to a youth camp, I finally accepted the Lord. I saw other young kids my age, and seeing their struggle and seeing how the Lord has moved in their lives, I got to see my mess, I guess, and it was a lot easier to be myself. And so that's where I made a greater connection with the Lord, and I accepted Christ in my life. And it was just a different view of my of a walk with the Lord, you know. And that was when I was around 12 years old or so. I got baptized not long after that, and so from middle school till the majority of my high school career, I was just sold out for Christ. You know, I always did youth groups and whatever. I was eventually joining the worship team, and yeah, just being part of ministry full time with my family and just in church. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Eric. Now, music, big part of your life, big part of your family's life. What was, so now Jesus is real to you. You know, you get baptized. I mean, the worship songs mean more, right? And you're already learning, you're probably already playing guitar by that point, right? Or
Actually, no. So my brothers were on the worship team, and I was observing, and it wasn't until I moved to the suburbs where I saw some kids like, really into music and in band. They were like just playing band, like just rock music. And I loved it too, but like that's when I'm like, yeah, I got to do that too, So I was easily influenced there. I'm like, so I picked up the guitar one summer, and right away just, picked it up, observed from my brothers, and I think I just picked it up pretty quick. That's when I eventually joined the worship team. But throughout high school, I was in some competitions with my brother and some friends, and we just, did music, yeah.
didn't you win a competition?
Yeah, we won 3 competitions.
3 competitions, yeah.
And then, later on, after high school, we continued to, to play some music, yeah.
And so your brother, Ivan, part of that band, right, who plays drums?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's played here a few times as a kind of a guest drummer.
Yeah, he's helped out a lot.
Yeah. So that's a great experience, obviously, preparing you for what God's got for you now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to come back to you. Your life took a little bit of a turn
Yes.
at the end of high school, but before that, let's turn over to Jessica. Jessica, as Eric has talked about his family, and his family was this kind, loving Christian family. Your story's not quite the same one, is it? So, I mean, tell us a little bit about how you grew up. It was not a Christian home, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
So we were a blended family, and kind of started off, I guess, with chaos being a blended family, because that all happened through infidelity and all of that. So there was a lot of hate between families due to that. And we grew up not knowing God. I remember my mom actually saying that she's not going to teach us religion because when we get older, we could choose which one.
You should decide, right?
Yeah, you should just decide what you want.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, actually.
Yeah.
Instead of her just pushing something, who knows
Yeah. Go ahead.
what. And my dad's side, his parents were Catholic. So I did kind of go here and there in their church, but I just, went wherever they made us, if they made us. So it was rough. It was a little bit rough. There was a lot of fighting, and a lot of DCFS and things like that.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes the police were called to your house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there was, like you said, DCFS was involved.
Yeah.
And just a lot of anger. Now, your dad was in the Gulf War, right?
Right.
So he came back with PTSD, and we have all the compassion in the world, for our soldiers, But when you're struggling, as you like, I've heard you say, hurt people. Hurt people. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's part of what you and your sisters and your mom dealt with from that perspective. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was kind of both sides with my dad, and then also with my mom, with things that she went through as a kid. So hurt people, and unfortunately, we kind of had it both ends. So without saying too much, because my parents are alive and I want to respect them,
Amen.
and not hinder their journey to come to Christ, because in Jesus' name it's going to happen. So, yes. Eventually, so before Christ, eventually, about 7th or 8th grade, I did block out a lot of my life. So I'm pretty sure about 7th and 8th grade, I was working, sometimes a couple jobs at that time. And about 8th to freshman year, I was on my own. Everybody was pretty much kicked out by that time, or they left.
And your dad had left at that point, right?
Yeah, my dad was gone.
Even earlier.
Right, probably
Yeah.
about 7th. So it was myself, kind of technically my mom and I, but she kind of checked out. So it was just me. And eventually, about high school, you know, you get involved sometimes with the wrong crowds. But I think I kind of learned very quickly, you know, whenever I started making friends who kind of understood, but they were kind of stuck in their heartache, you know? So they were making decisions based on that, and I was making decisions based on, I am not about to become these people, you know, my family. I have to do everything that I can to, you know, just break these generational curses, if you will, you know. So I worked about 3 jobs pretty much all through high school.
3 jobs.
Yeah, because they don't all let you at your age or at my age, they don't all allow full-time. Probably one of them would, you know, let you be full-time, and the other would be part-time. So I would leave school, go to work.
Yeah.
it
And
kept
because if
me
you didn't
busy.
work, there was no money, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because there was nothing, like you weren't getting any kind of support and at home at that point.
Right.
And it was very, I mean, even from that perspective, you were actually alone quite a bit
Right.
during your high school years. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I had to work so that way I could pay my phone bill, so that way my jobs could contact me, so that way I could eat, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you told a great story. Can you tell us about the day that the pastor at the church, you were doing something at the church, if you don't mind sharing that, and about the pastor who came and talked to you while you were outside the church building there?
Yeah, so so throughout
Yep.
throughout my time, I was really angry. I'm gonna be real honest. I was mad. I did not like Jesus people. I did not like too many people in general, if I'm being honest. I just wanted to fight. I don't know if I told you that,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
but I did. I just, you know, people, they, you know, look at me or say something the wrong way. I was just ready, like, you want to say something else? You know, honestly. But these Jesus people, you know, that's going back to how I know that I would have talked. That's like, why do these Jesus people keep talking to me? Like, do you think I want to talk to you? That's pretty much how I kept on feeling. And I remember one time in particular, I was hiding in a little, so you know there's a building, right? And there's like a doorway in the outside, but kind of you could stand there if you want to be protected by the rain, or if you wanted to smoke, or something like that. So I was smoking. I did not want to get caught by the police. But
Because it wasn't legal what you were smoking.
Because it was not legal at the time.
At that time.
Yes, I do not smoke now, guys. I don't, you know. But anyway, I was hiding, and it was a church. Why did these Jesus people come talk to me? I don't know. Maybe because I decided to go to a church. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I was drawn, and they were drawn. I don't know. So this pastor came out and he just started talking to me about Jesus. And anytime people wanted to talk to me about Jesus, I was not nice. And I would just, it would get me heated, kind of like, tell me how your God is real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if a, oh gosh, sorry guys.
Yeah. Well, you went through a lot of pain. I mean, it was physical pain, it was emotional pain, it was mental pain.
Yeah.
And where's Jesus? This everybody talks about this loving God. Where is this loving God?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. I would say, you know, how can God be real if, you know, where is he while that child is getting beat up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We understand.
Um,
And I know a lot of you understand, don't you? You know this story, don't you? For some of you, this is your story. Yeah, some of you, this is your story. And but you had a friend in high school who was a pest.
yeah.
Yeah, tell us about
One
her.
of those Jesus people.
Yeah, another one of those Jesus people.
I didn't know that in the beginning, though. She didn't. She tricked me. She was like trying to be friends first. I don't know, but yeah, she just kept inviting me to church, and I was like, no, I don't have time for that. Jesus is for weak people.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I'm not weak, you know. Whatever.
you definitely weren't. I mean,
Gosh.
you were a tough nut at that point, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was broken. I just couldn't let it out.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
nobody could see that because. Then they
But
knew.
the hard shell you had built around
Yeah.
your heart was thick as steel, wasn't it?
Right. So she just kept inviting me to church, and she knew. Thank you. She had heard me. She had heard me bash Christians. She's heard me. I said some very vulgar, really things that looking back, I just think, I will get there. But I look back and I think, like, dang, how? You did that. Like, you said that. You did those things,
Yeah.
But not in a... Now I get to look back and be thankful,
Mm-hmm.
and understand other people who are hurting. But, she just kept inviting me, and I said, no, I work on Sundays.
Mhm.
No, I do this. No, I'm too busy. I'm tired. That's my only time to sleep.
Right.
It was always excuses.
But she just kept saying, "You got to come to church with me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Did y'all hear
eventually
that?
I gave in.
We heard a week or so ago. I know somebody shared here on the platform that it takes about 9 times. People actually study these things, but it takes about 9 invitations today for someone someone finally is worn down, and they'll accept an invitation to church. And this is exactly what happened. This friend, but she was a friend too. She wasn't just trying to get you to go to church. You guys were friends. She was kind to you, wasn't she?
Oh, yeah. We were friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was more than 9 times, I will say, though. It's probably like
More than 9 times.
9 times. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But she just kept on. And it wasn't, I will say, it wasn't judgmental. It wasn't like, girl, you're going to hell, you need to go to church. It
Yeah.
was never like that. It was not, like, she knew some things about my family, but not many people did because I didn't talk about it. But it wasn't like, hey, I know this, you need to come to church.
Yeah.
It wasn't, there was no pressure. It was
Yeah.
just like, hey, I'm going, you want to come with?
Mhm.
And eventually, through that love, and because I cared about her, I was like, all right, I'll go.
And then what happened
What happened?
when you went to church?
It was really nice, actually. Weird, definitely weird. But eventually, I realized, like, whoa, he's real.
Yeah. He's real.
Yeah,
Yeah. These Jesus people are actually worshiping somebody who's real.
yeah. It did take a little bit because
Sure.
I think the first time I was like, well, these people are weird. But I kind of want to go back and see, like, what else are they going to do? Why are they raising their hands? Like, what's happening? It was definitely weird. But there was a weird peace, I think, that I felt, but I didn't want to admit to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I just slowly started breaking down.
Yeah.
The more I listened, and the more I just realized it is a bunch of weak people.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you put up a pretend I'm fine face or not. But so are the ones who don't know God. Because I was that weak person
Yeah.
putting up that exterior,
Yeah.
because I had to. When you go through a lot of things, when you see a lot of things, the weak kind of get picked on. At least that's what I always, felt. So you don't want to be vulnerable to anybody, of course.
Yeah. So the scriptures tell us that God will take your heart of stone and make it a heart of clay.
Yeah.
And so that stone heart was chipped away at, and eventually you gave in to Christ, and I believe you were baptized there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this was Reverend Meek's church.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was not baptized.
Weren't baptized there, okay. But
Yeah,
you
I
made
was-
it, but you accepted Christ at that church. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
House of Hope.
Yeah. Yeah, House of Hope, Reverend Meek, some of y'all may know that name. It's a very large church here in Chicago. So that's another fine point, I think. Here's this, little white girl with her blonde hair and blue eyes, and she gets invited to a church that's mostly African American, and that's where she finds Jesus. That's why I'm always saying, folks, these barriers that we put between us are made up by the devil, right? We're one race,
for sure.
the human race. And we all are in the same condition. We're broken, and we all need Jesus. We all need Jesus.
Yeah.
So let's shoot back over to Eric. Eric, your story took a little bit of a change after you, this good Christian boy who grew up in church, and then some things happened after high school.
Hello? Okay. So actually, my senior year, I started feeling a little bit more free, wanted to be more adventurous, and so I, attended more parties. I wanted to experience more things. So I tried things and started hanging out with the wrong people, having the wrong relationships, and coming out of high school, I took about a year off before going to college, and that was just me wanting to live the way I wanted to, And I realized that I was living a secondhand faith, a life where, I just accepted what my parents said, growing up in church and everything. I said yes, okay, and, did what I did, and even after accepting Christ, I was still, I think if anything, I was pressured as well, because, growing up in a Christian home, there's a lot of expectations, and there's, we can't look like, my dad was an elder, and just being in the front, we didn't want to look like anything was wrong, so it was almost like I just wanted to make sure that my sin was not exposed, that my sin was kept a secret, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't hurting, nobody saw that I was hurting, or so I just, throughout high school and then going into, coming out of high school, I just kind of let that go and just kind of wanted to do my own thing, and eventually, with the band that I was in, we would play at music venues, and that's where I met my son's mom, and we had a child. And that's where things really hit hard. I'm like, I want to be a dad, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I felt ashamed. I felt my sin. It finally caught up to me, and I realized how far I've gone, And it wasn't until Hayden was born, his mom and I broke up, and it was rough. So she kept him away from me for about a year, And so during that time, I was working this third shift job, and I was just feeling lonely. It was the drama with her and working a third shift job, just going to work and coming home tired, and like I didn't see my friends, I didn't spend too much time with my family, and my church, I think I felt a little ashamed to be there, so I slowly stopped going there. So I was just on my own, feeling lonely, and eventually started hanging out with one friend who spoke a lot of life into me and just invited me to his church, where I started attending because it was a morning service, and so coming out of work, I would be able to attend that service. My church service was like a little bit later, so it was a lot difficult to go there, and not just that, but I just didn't feel completely myself, So I attended this church, Harvest Time Worship Center in Burbank, and I went there consistently, and it was finally that it was my choice, wanting to go to church, wanting to seek the Lord, and then I joined the worship team there, and it was just me taking it slow, at my pace, and just really getting to know, how where I fit, like where this journey is going for me. I was able to really just wrestle with the Lord, really.
Yeah, and it's a life-changing event for you in every way, and of course, I know you love Hayden to death. He's been around here, and what a great kid. The blessing that comes from that. But, we've got young folks out here, teenagers, college-age students. What would you say to them about, that experience? What would be your advice in regard to starting a family?
I don't know. Don't do it.
Well, it's obviously been very hard for you, in this whole scenario, but, the marriage that you and Jessica share with your children is,
Sure, wait till you're married. Wait to get into the relationship and know what you want together, and then know that it's the right one. It almost, going into a relationship, you're in love, with the first one, and so right away you think, oh, this is love. This is, it's okay. We're gonna get married, I think, so let's, do whatever, and let's.
Yeah, but until you've made that commitment and you've said your vows, there's just so much that, because you do. You're young, you feel the love, you feel the, all the emotion, all the feelings. But God in His amazing grace, brings forgiveness and cleanses our souls. And so you eventually find your way to college, right?
Yeah.
And you met a girl there.
I met Jessica.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So
Did you guys like each other when you first met each other?
So we started, my friend and I, who invited me to this church, we started a group at Moraine Valley Community College, and it was just this group where we had random, not random topics, but it was focused, but it wasn't like a church group, I should say.
Yeah.
And it made it comfortable for a lot of people to come and attend. And I met Jessica. I shared my story that I have a son and he's born, and Jessica came to me and offered to help with some clothes, because she worked at Kmart at the time, and she offered to help, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
That's not how that went, but we'll talk.
Microphones
Oh, I'm sorry.
should be on.
Hello.
Yeah. What did you say?
I said that's not how that went, but
Yeah.
I can tell you guys later.
So you guys told me that, at first it was like, yeah, we're friends, but, don't really think much of this person. But then you started going to church together and doing ministry together. What happened then, Jessica?
Well, we started, actually, we were doing that group at college together and just not being friends, just, acquaintances. And his friend said, hey, come to our church. So eventually I did. And Eric and him were the youth leaders, right? And he was the youth pastor. And we just started hanging out with all the youth kids, like going out to eat afterwards and just becoming friends. It was easy.
Yeah, it's fun times. And eventually, Eric got brave and asked you out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after spending a lot of time, it was just easy. I think Jessica, that was her words. To get closer. We were doing ministry together. We were having fun, and eventually, yeah, I just asked her out. And on our first date, she brought her friend. So I said, let's go here, and then she showed up with her friend.
I did not. I was nervous, guys, and I didn't know that it was a date. Let's not.
So the moral of the story is do ministry at church, you
Yes.
single people, all right? Do ministry at church with other people, and it's a great place to meet your future spouse. God has brought many, many, many couples together through church. I can just tell you that right now. Now, one thing, Jessica, we kind of missed about your high school experience was at some point somebody asked you to enter a contest to sing. What happened then?
That was college.
That was college that happened.
Yes.
Okay, so you're at Moraine Valley, and someone wants you to, said, hey, you should enter this contest.
Yeah.
And you entered because why?
Well, I needed a car. The bus was it was getting too, ridiculous. I was walking to work too much. If any of you guys take the bus, you know that it says it's coming at this time. But if it comes a little early or a whole lot late, it doesn't really matter to them. It does to the people on a schedule. So, yes, I was constantly missing the bus, so I needed a car. And when the person had said to me, hey, we have this talent show. Do you want to, I heard, you sing. Do you want to do it? And I was like, no, I don't have time for that. I have to go to school. I have to go to work. I do what I do. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not trying to do anything extra. And he's like, well, you could win. I think it was $500. You could win if you win first place. And I was like, okay. I do need a car, and I'm trying to save up for that, so that would kind of help. So I did, and I did win.
You did win. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really surprised. There was really some amazing people. And I sang a cappella, too, so without music, a cappella. So it was a huge blessing. And I did buy a car.
Well, that's
It was
good.
nice.
Yeah, which is great because I know in high school you said you spent a lot of time walking middle of the night, going back and forth to work, trying to get home.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times to an empty house. And that was
Always
those
an
are some
empty
scary, always an empty house. And that was kind of a scary time for you, but the Lord really protected you felt like, during those times. I do think it was funny, though. I'm gonna put you on the spot here because one time, didn't a police car stop you?
Oh, yeah.
And what was he concerned about?
So I, one of my jobs at this point was cleaning houses in high school. Just word of mouth, more people. And some of the neighborhoods were a little more rough than others. So I was like, I'm still a tomboy. But anyway, I was wearing a skirt, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling myself today, and in shorts underneath, but because I'm cleaning a house. But I'm walking, and this police officer pulls me over because he thought I was a prostitute because of the neighborhood that, and then obviously you look around and you start seeing that there's a whole bunch of people. It doesn't necessarily mean like I was, you could look fine, just fine,
Absolutely.
but that was like kind of a wake-up call, honestly. I started thinking all right, you don't walk with your head down, you walk with your head up, you don't look in your phone, you're not like this, you just pay attention. And unfortunately, I will say that says a lot. I was young, and if they could think that a young kid, could be in a predicament like that, is because it actually happens more times than we. Side note,
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, as funny as it
Absolutely.
sounds, or like, oh, that's sad. I look just fine, but people get put in those, situations, those predicaments.
Yeah. What I love about that, and I wanted you to share that little story, it's a little bit humorous, but it's also just how God's hand was on you, even before you were saved, even before, you came to receive him as Savior and Lord. So obviously things have gone very, very well for you guys. We'll wrap this up now. You meet in college, you end up getting married. Pretty short engagement, right?
Yeah, we dated for a few months. We were friends for a good while. And then
A good while. We were friends for
a
like
year,
maybe a year.
2 years.
Maybe
We
2
dated
years.
for, I don't know, a few months, and then not long after I proposed. And yeah, now we're celebrating 10 years married.
10 years of marriage this month. Yeah.
So it's been amazing,
Yeah.
Our ups and downs, but for sure it's been the most beautiful thing that
Yeah.
most beautiful 10 years.
Amen. And you've added 3 more children to the nest that we see running around here. 2 of them very young. Annelle's been here for quite a while. We all know Annelle, but you also have Edith and Nathaniel, who are how old?
Now 2 and 3.
Yeah,
2 and 3.
Now 2.
So you guys, sometimes you don't even sleep at night still, do you? There's still
I don't sleep.
I do. She doesn't sleep.
yeah,
I don't sleep. Yeah.
yeah.
No, sometimes he wakes up, guys.
Yeah, nice. Good save. Good save. So anyway, we're so blessed. I want you guys, it's so good to hear our stories, and I love hearing the stories of the people of Woodlands. And I just think, you two just have a story that I think a lot of people relate to, all church people aren't like all goody two-shoe kind of people that grew up in perfect homes and had an easy life, and it's just not that way. A lot of people who come to Jesus have come through a very hard road, a very difficult road, but Jesus is the one, God bless the broken road, right? God bless the broken road that leads us to the Lord. And so these two, they're very talented, as we've heard. They've been recognized and won awards, won contests musically, and they're still on a journey, right? Still very much on a journey. And as they come to work in our worship team, I just really want to invite all of us to be sure that we're praying for them. It's a tough job. It really is. It's a tough job to lead a worship team at a church. And I just ask that you would support them, give them lots and lots and lots of grace, because whenever you're starting a ministry, you really need lots of grace. I know I did when I started here 10 years ago. I started as senior pastor here as you two were getting married, and man, I needed a lot of grace. And a lot of people didn't give me grace my first year or two here, and a lot of those people moved on. But I've grown a lot. I know you guys are growing, and have a lot of growth ahead of you. And we're very excited about what's happening at Woodlands. God is intentionally making us very much younger in regards to our leadership here at Woodlands. And I'm very, very excited about that.